Well, hello. I'm excited for this one. Firstly, because I have had the pleasure of being one of the beta readers for What Happens in the Cocoon, and I've sat in with the first reading that we had with Natalia and her amazing wife Marlanda. So I get to be in the hot seat with the author herself this evening. Natalia is going to be giving us a beautiful read out of her book, and then we're going to have a good discussion around two focal points. I'm going to be chatting about shaman sickness, because that is one of the pivotal things that really stood out for me in Natalia's book, as her journey through her form of shaman sickness. So we really want to poke around in that. And then unpacking religious deconstruction and getting some good juicy insights from Nat on how we can navigate those things. So Nat, do you want to open with your reading?
I can. I can do that. So, can I do some flowers first?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I want to do that. So, I want to tell everybody thanks for being here. Connie, I seen you. You thought you was gonna sneak in here and not get called out. I seen you come in. Thank y'all for being here. Tam, thank you for just being so willing to join me in the space. You and I go, it seems like it's been longer.
Mm,
But I realize that you've seen me through the evolution of my life and who I've become now. Because when you first met me, this was not me.
mm-mm,
No,
definitely not.
no, it wasn't me. And it's just been really wonderful to just be myself with you and for you. It's always wonderful when somebody can see something that you can't. And then, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up. And Tam sold me my first pack of tarot cards.
Hmm.
So yeah, we got some history. So I want to thank you for sharing space with me and thank everybody for being here. Y'all could be anywhere else, but you have chosen to be here and I do not take that lightly. I'm very appreciative because you could be watching Netflix, Hulu or something else, YouTube, but thank you for being here with me. All right, y'all. How many of y'all have read the book? Show of hands. Connie, I'm gonna give you a whooping. You came to the doggone in-person one. What's wrong with you, girl? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I signed it in front of you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I understand, especially if you're anything like me. You're a book collector, and you see the amount of books that I still need to read. So I get it. I totally get it. All right. So thus far, Tam, right? I know Heather, you and I have talked about it on your podcast. And then Courtney, you and I talked a little bit about it. So we got other authors in the house too. I'll say that. Okay, let me stop chasing the rabbit. So I am going to read a bit from the book and then I will open it up to Tam and we can talk about however you want to navigate and answer any questions. You guys ready? Okay. So this is the opening. This is a story of a woman on a journey into learning who she is and how she wants to show up in the world. It's a story of how she overcame so much to get to the place of wholeness. Trigger warning. This journey includes emotional, verbal, physical, and religious abuse, as well as deep trauma from childhood into adulthood. The woman in this book has a deep longing to discover the unknown, to explore other places and people on this planet. Thank you, Tam, for critical mass. As her story progresses, she becomes very determined to find herself. She becomes a seeker. She endures emotional ups and downs, bouts of depression and anger, and an illness that almost took her life. Then finally, she awakens to a world of more. My journey took me from religious indoctrination to becoming a spiritualist. I did not navigate everything perfectly, and some of my decisions and actions were not aligned with my higher self, but I was determined to live. My hope is that as you read, you will see my humanity, my light, and my reunion with the divine. I hope my story resonates with you, touches you, and that you take away gems of encouragement. I offer you the story of my life as a gift. Amen. Ashe. Aho. Okay. So, this is chapter 2. Chapters are relatively short in the book, FYI. This is called A Mask of Happiness. I started writing my story back in 2019. At that time, I thought it would be about my journey as a Christian woman following God to various places with my then husband. What I did not realize was that there was something coming to awaken me to who I really was. I was unhappy, but pretending to be happy. I was trying to be a good wife and follow who I knew at the time as God. But there was still a longing within me for the ability to be myself. There were things I had done before I became a Christian that seemed normal and brought me joy. As a Christian, I had been programmed to leave those things behind because they were considered secular and sinful. If I wanted to be acceptable to God, I had to let those things die. But I missed them. I did not know that I was dealing with depression, disassociation, and ADD. My moods and emotions fluctuated constantly. I did everything I could to push through it with scripture and prayer. Sometimes it worked, and other times not so much. One thing that kept coming up was my attraction to women. This was something that did not just magically rise up in me one day. It was something I felt even when I was young. I found women beautiful. Everything from how their lips moved, to how they walked, to the curvature of their hips and neck. I remember watching a woman talk when I was younger and being completely fascinated. She had an energy I found intoxicating. I never told anyone about my feelings. My world would have come crashing down if I had. For a time, I thought I might be bisexual. I still found men attractive. However, always seemed to be something lacking in my ability to connect with them on an emotional level. As I got older, I realized I had a deeper connection with women, a soul level connection. But I knew this would not fly within the church. Y'all okay? Okay. Next one. So, context. I was born and raised into a family of Jehovah's Witnesses, devout Jehovah's Witnesses. My dad is still, to this day, one of the head elders of his congregation in the Detroit area of Michigan. Most of my family is still very active in it, okay? I was born in Detroit, Michigan, into a family of Jehovah's Witnesses. My mother grew up in it. Her mother had studied with a member and got baptized into the organization. My father, raised a Baptist, began to study with a friend, and this led to his conversion. My parents met at one of the local assemblies put on by the organization, started dating, got married, and I was born soon after that. Jehovah's Witnesses had a strict doctrine that did not permit the celebration of any major holidays. When I was growing up, we did not celebrate Halloween, Christmas, Valentine's Day, Easter, Memorial Day, Labor Day, or the 4th of July. This was challenging for me as a kid. It looked like so much fun to dress up in costumes and go from house to house to get candy. And the idea of giving and receiving gifts for Christmas and Valentine's Day was so exciting. In preschool, I saw kids walking past my classroom wearing different costumes. I want to do that, I thought. I excitedly told my mother about it when I got home. She told me I was not allowed. When I asked why, she said, "We don't celebrate Halloween. Jehovah's Witnesses do not participate in any pagan holidays." My little heart sank into my stomach. I had been so excited and was now so disappointed. I would never get to dress up and have fun with all the other kids. It didn't get any easier as I got older. Not only could I not dress up for Halloween, I couldn't exchange Valentines or participate in the Christmas program. If a classmate brought cupcakes to share with the class for their birthday, I couldn't have one. If the class was having a celebration of any kind, I had to go to the library until it was over. I hated missing out, and it was so embarrassing to be so different. Occasionally, there would be another Jehovah's Witness kid in my class, and I wouldn't be the only one, but it still stung. Why couldn't we celebrate birthdays? Jehovah's Witnesses base their adherence to this doctrine on the fact that the Bible only ever mentions two birthdays, Pharaoh's birthday in Genesis 40 and Herod's in Matthew 14 and Mark 6. Because something bad happened at both events, they believe God disapproves of birthday celebrations. They believe that bringing honor to yourself even just once a year on your birthday is not honoring God, who alone deserves honor. Needless to say, I never got to celebrate my birthday growing up. Being brought up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses made me different in the world. And when I was growing up, all I wanted was to be normal. I began to question so much because the demands of strict adherence to these doctrinal rules overwhelmed me. The governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses consists of all men and is located in Brooklyn, New York. Books and magazines are written and printed in facilities there and in other places. These men are the heartbeat of the organization that is now present in 240 lands with over 9 million members and more than 118,000 congregations worldwide. The website jw.org is available in 300 or more languages and features more than 200,000 pages of articles, videos, and audio materials. The New World Translation Bible is used globally by Jehovah's Witnesses and has been published in 307 languages with over 253 million copies distributed globally. The Watchtower and Awake magazine, distributed by the organization, are available in hundreds of languages as well. We studied many of these materials when I was growing up and attended 5 meetings a week. Elders would give talks or sermons, pressuring absolute devotion to Jehovah, and we listened to the kingdom songs or hymns. We were instructed to keep ourselves separate from the world. Anyone who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness was a worldly person and a negative influence. I was not allowed to hang out with people who didn't go to the Kingdom Hall. This religion was the foundation of my life for many years. Honestly, I felt it very hard to adapt to it. Even as a child, I was troubled by the conditioning that suggested we could only read these specific books and magazines. I started to really question what my family had gotten themselves into. I knew deep within my heart and soul that something wasn't right. I knew God couldn't possibly be this restrictive on how to navigate life. How was it that the old Bible stories were the only way to know God and His will? I couldn't wrap my head around the idea that there was only this one way of living that was acceptable to Him. My heart was often heavy. I felt trapped. I once had a conversation with my father about my questions and doubts. His response was, Jehovah God chose you to be one of His people. This is a gift that you have been given, and you should really think about this and appreciate it. His words filled me with guilt and shame. Being chosen as a witness was a great honor. I could have ended up somewhere else, condemned with no clear direction for my life. I should have felt lucky, but I didn't. This wasn't aligned with how I felt deep inside. Every fiber of my body wanted to rebel. I wanted to run for my life. I wanted out of this prison of do's and don'ts. I wanted to go someplace far away where no one knew me and start over. I made a promise to myself that day. When I got old enough, I would move away from Michigan and start a new life, one that had nothing to do with being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, a life where I wouldn't have to worry about what my family or other witnesses thought, a life where no one would question the things I did, I believed. Sorry, y'all. A life where no one would question the things I did and believed. I decided I would move away and become who I truly was meant to be someday. How you doing? Okay. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. So this next short chapter, another move, another illness, context. At the time, I was still married to my then husband. My then husband went to seminary, and so I got to experience being a pastor's wife and living that life with him. And we moved around a lot. We would feel like we were being led to move somewhere, and we would sell all our possessions and get up and go. And so this is happening in Greensboro, North Carolina. It's called Another Move and Illness Manifesting. When my husband and I moved to Greensboro, North Carolina to follow God, we did not know what to expect. I will admit that the adventure of following God from one place to another had become exhausting and overwhelming, and that was the final time we would move in that way. The church we were attending in Greenville gave us a loving send-off prayer and hands laid upon us as we got ready to depart. We got rid of a great deal of our possessions, got into our car, and moved in with a friend. We were in an apartment with 3 dogs, a cat, and 3 adults. To say it was crowded was an understatement. We did not have much money, and we moved with no employment secured. It was a stressful time and challenging from day to day, not knowing how we would have food to eat or get gas to go and look for work. We both found jobs, which relieved much of our anxiety, but we wanted to get our own place, to have privacy, and get away from some of the conflicts that had arisen. During this time, there was a virus going around that was making people sick for longer than usual. One night, I got ready to go to bed as I normally did, but I had trouble falling asleep. This is highly unusual because I'm someone who's out as soon as my head hits the pillow. I tossed and turned all night and noticed that my heart rate was increasing. It was not a symptom I had ever experienced before. I finally fell asleep from exhaustion around 3 a.m. I developed a cold and took medicine as I usually did. The next day I took a short nap as I didn't have to work. I fell asleep that night, but only a few short hours, and then I woke up. The cycle continued to repeat every night and began to affect me in so many ways. It was hard for me to concentrate at work. I became anxious at bedtime because I did not know if I would be able to sleep through the night. This vicious cycle continued and other symptoms arose. I started having panic attacks. I thought I was having a heart attack at times. I was beginning to hallucinate and not remember what day it was or whether I took a shower or brushed my teeth. Something was happening in my body and I had no idea what it was. My then husband was concerned and took me to the hospital. I could not sleep and felt foggy-headed all the time. I had no appetite and felt lethargic every day. Fear and anxiety raced through my body. This went on for months, beginning in November 2019 and into 2020. My husband took me to the hospital every time I asked. We were often in the emergency room for hours, almost weekly. This lasted for months, and he was frustrated and tired. The doctors ran tests on me, and nothing would come back. They told me to take melatonin and magnesium for sleep. Later, they gave me the diagnosis that I had anxiety, and they put me on an SSRI. They said it would allow me to get my quality of life back. But deep inside, I knew something was really wrong, and no one had any idea what it was. I started taking the SSRI, and the side effects made me feel so much worse. The hallucinations began to intensify. I heard voices telling me I was going to die. They got louder when I had consecutive nights without much sleep. It was terrifying. I later came to understand that my body was stuck in a state of fight or flight and could not come out of it. Each time I visited a new doctor, I would come back empty and discouraged. I could no longer work. My husband made just enough money to support us, but things were tight. I required full-time care during the day when he was away from work. I remember the look of helplessness on his face during this time because there was nothing he could do to help me feel better. We heard about a revival down in New Orleans in the French Quarter. There was testimonies of mass healings taking place in a small bar. People were getting saved and healed of a variety of physical ailments and emotional challenges. I talked with my husband about it that evening. We got in the car and we headed down. It was extremely spontaneous, but it was not uncommon for us to live our lives that way. We had no idea who we would meet or encounter when we got there, but I needed a major healing in my body. I slept for most of the trip because I didn't feel the symptoms when I was in a moving vehicle, and my nervous system would settle. We arrived in New Orleans early the next morning and found a hotel just outside the city. We settled and decided to get coffee at Starbucks and begin to figure out how to find the bar we were told about. I was in the line getting our coffee while my husband was outside with our dog, and a woman approached me in line, complimented me on my makeup. Even though I didn't feel well, if I had enough strength, I would apply my makeup because it just made me feel good. She asked if I was from the area, and said, and I said I was visiting with my husband. Visiting family or on vacation, she asked. I proceeded to tell her exactly why we came down on a whim the night before. She was intrigued. She attended a church not far from where we were, and she said we needed to connect with one of the pastors. They were having revivals in the French Quarter. It was a different ministry than the one in the bar. I took her outside to meet my husband and dog, and she connected us with the pastor. Within a short time, he called my phone and introduced himself. He told us about the revival that they had in an actual church building they used for Friday night healing services. We made plans to attend the service that night, but checked out of the hotel because he didn't want to pay for another night. We hoped someone from the church would allow us to stay with them. Looking back, I realized it wasn't a good idea to place that kind of pressure on someone. We arrived at the church in the French Quarter, and I was gripped with anticipation, but also having a great deal of symptoms. My head was foggy, and I felt disconnected from my body. This had been going on for months, and I needed God to heal my body so I could get back to being myself. During the service, I went up for prayer and was surrounded by people praying and speaking in different tongues. Someone petitioned God to remove a demon from the inside of me that was making me sick. Now, I heard this. We stayed in Louisiana for a while in hopes that the environment would help heal me. I convinced myself that if I just did God's work by praying for others while I was dealing with my own sickness, my healing would come. So we ended up participating in the street ministry with the church while we were there. Looking back, I realized that I was so desperate for healing, I was willing to do anything for that to happen. After all the prayer that night and the days ahead, nothing changed, and my symptoms got worse. We were not prepared for what would happen with me physically over the next year. There was a long road ahead of us with this mystery illness. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you that mystery illness was Lyme's disease. And it took almost an entire year to get the diagnosis. I was bedridden, and I had to learn how to walk again. I lost over 100 pounds. Okay? I'm going to jump ahead, Tam, for time's sake. So I leave my husband. I come to. I get my quality of life back. Tam met me on the cusp of that. And I decide I'm going to embrace who I am fully and stop hiding it. I just was going to surrender to whatever I needed to surrender to and step into my power fully. And I knew that it was going to cost me everything, and it did. It cost me everything. From almost living in my car, moving house to house, everything you can imagine. I lost a very thriving salon business in Greenville. Yeah. Okay. So this is the last chapter in the book, and then I'm going to let you take over, Tam. Y'all good? Okay. Moving forward in divine love. While navigating life with Lyme's disease, I was introduced to several healing modalities. I had heard of the benefits of acupuncture, but had never tried it. There was an acupuncturist in a Zoom networking group I joined during the pandemic, and she came highly recommended by another business colleague. I scheduled my initial assessment with her with equal parts skepticism and curiosity. People in the church had offered unsolicited advice, warning me that acupuncture would open some sort of demonic door to my life. I was in so much pain I couldn't even walk very well, and I decided to go anyway. During her assessment, the acupuncturist looked at my tongue and told me I had low iron. I hadn't even told her that I had been anemic for most of my life. She began to insert the needles at various points of my body and explain how it would allow the chi, or energetic blood flow, to move. She said I would notice a great reduction in pain and it would help me detox. This made me very happy. I saw her twice a week to start and noticed a tremendous difference in my body within the first couple of sessions. I was standing straighter and walking better, and over an extended period of time, I could truly feel my body again. My mood, anxiety, and pain level drastically transformed. I had gotten my quality of life back. My acupuncturist was also a Reiki practitioner. I was curious and asked her so many questions. She answered them and asked me for permission to show me what it was all about. I said yes and invited this modality into our acupuncture sessions. She would give me a zap, as she called it, every time I would come for a session. I could feel the energy moving through my body, and I began to feel a deep calm come over me. Sometimes I even fell asleep. When our sessions were finished, I would leave feeling lighter and happier. I began to research the benefits associated with Reiki. This was the beginning of my introduction to Eastern healing modalities that would become a major part of my life. A few short years later, I was attuned in Reiki and became a master of it in both in person and distance. I learned so much about energy by studying Reiki. I love that it's available for anyone to learn it for themselves and to use it to serve others. It's not tied to any religion. It's a universal life force energy that we all carry and can use to assist others with block energy, pain, anxiety, and other challenges. I practice it on myself, my wife, and my clients to this day. Because I was open and curious, it seemed like God began to send others within the healing arts across my path. When I was still navigating Lyme disease and not sleeping well, I met a woman in Falls Park in Greenville, South Carolina. She approached me and my then husband randomly and told us she felt drawn to me. She offered a free session of tuning forks to us right there in the park. Admittedly, I felt a little awkward because it was out in the open. What if somebody from the church saw us? But I let the fear go and asked a few questions about the process and benefits. She answered kindly with information, and we both accepted. We moved to a more comfortable place in the park, and she brought out items of various sizes that resembled forks. She led us through some breath work to ground us in receiving the work she was about to do. With my eyes closed, I heard her hit one of the tuning forks. It vibrated, and she ran it over the front of my body and my then husband's. The sound changed as it passed over different parts of my body. I began to feel calmer and more relaxed with each of the different forks she used. She asked me if I had anxiety. I said no. I still was entertaining the voices of people at church telling me not to claim anxiety so it wouldn't have a hold over me. But deep inside, at my core, I knew I struggled with anxiety, especially since navigating the illness and other traumatic experiences over the course of my life. After she finished our session, she wanted to do another session with me at a private location. I didn't accept her invitation because I was still a bit skeptical. But that night I slept the best I had slept in a long time. I didn't wake up once. It was then that I knew I had been introduced to another form of healing. Some years later, during a Pride event in June, I was navigating pain in my body. I approached one of the tents and met a healer. I had only connected with her online. She offered sound healing with crystal quartz singing bowls. She led with some breath work while I was lying on the massage chair. Once the sound came through, I felt my body and nervous system respond and calm down. I began to cry and release what I had been holding. She said she felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. After I got off the table and wiped my eyes, I noticed immediately that the pain was gone. It didn't return for the rest of the day. When we become open to the offerings of the divine to heal in ways outside what we've been taught are the only ways, we become enlightened. I have been told for so long that my healing could only come through specific healing within mainstream Christianity. I've been warned about going outside that arena. Yet because I was open and curious, I found that healing can come in other ways. Today I see it with a completely different set of eyes. I've witnessed miracles and healing through prayer and the laying on of hands in the middle of the French Quarter. I've seen people get prayed for that had cancer and be healed. I've watched a blind person receive sight after a corporate prayer in a church. I myself have experienced healing through prayer, but I've also witnessed and experienced receiving acupuncture and Reiki and being able to stand up straight and begin to walk normally again. I've experienced sound healing that not only calmed my nervous system, but also removed pain from my body. I know now that the divine will give us what we need when we need it. And oftentimes we have to get out of our own way to allow it to come. We have to get rid of the idea that it will only come one way, or we'll miss out on other experiences that will lead us into a higher consciousness. When we pray and petition God for healing and cry out in desperation, we have to be willing to allow God to show up in whatever way they choose to do so. I've learned so much in becoming a practitioner in the healing arts. It has awakened me to the healing power of just being within nature and allowing the symphony of the wind to carry me to a place of pure bliss. I've learned how to get still and allow the sound of my inhale and exhale to become an anchor for deep meditative work that brings clarity and healing to my body. I do love the scripture of Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. That stillness resides in all of us because the spirit of the divine lives within us all. We are divine expressions of love. We are creators. We manifest radiant light that shines brightly throughout the earth. Ponder that and allow Spirit to show you the truth in the light and the value that you carry. Amen. Ashe. Aho.
Do you want to open the floor up for any questions that we have? I mean, I've read the book. I've been in two readings, and every time I'm just like, man, this is amazing. It really is just such beautiful wisdom to share with the world, and like sharing your story. There's something very powerful about that. Um, does anyone have any questions about what Heather? Yeah.
So I'm curious because many people are familiar with the fact that religious indoctrination and sound healing, Reiki, all of that are quite different. How did you, after years of that framework in your mindset, your beliefs, how did you transition from the old life essentially to this new beautiful place that you're in now?
Um, Gradually. I started sharing my story. I just started telling people. And I ran into skepticism, and because it's something that is not something you'll see on a Sunday morning or Wednesday night prayer service, people tend to, oh, I don't know about that, you know. But when I started to look at the scientific evidence, like how our bodies respond to sound, how our bodies respond to energy, and begin to study it out, and it it didn't scare me, it intrigued me because I was like, well, wait a minute. We all Some of us believe that there is a source, being, whatever, that's out there. I say out there, but in here. Okay? Ultimately, it's here. And I started to look back and forth and go, well, wait a minute. I read the scripture. I made the earth and everything therein. Interesting. Could it be that the divine helped people centuries back to get an understanding of how sound healing works, how hertz work? And somebody's trying to tell you that that's demonic and evil because they want to control you. And they want you to look for healing in one place. And that, I hope I'm answering your question, Heather. I started telling people, and I started educating the ones who would be receptive to it, and then I started living it out. You could see it. I hope that answered your question.
You did. The scientific study of, I think that's what I was looking for. How you
Yes.
got the mind shift. Yeah.
Yeah, I was that Christian who studied the Bible, the Hebrew and the Greek. Shit, I had a pastoral husband. I had to. I didn't have a choice. And so I'm a nerd when it comes to. I'm like, wait a minute. There's no pain in my body. I got to figure out why. But not everybody, when you've had a theology or a doctrine that has been reinforced and reinforced, it takes a minute. I don't want you to have to go through what I went through to get your attention.
Any other questions? Thoughts? Ideas? Funny.
Yes. Hi. It's interesting to me. You're talking about anxiety. I'm curious as to whether you say you still have it or whether you have a different relationship to it, and what would you say is different now? And I have a specific reason for asking.
I got you. No problem. I have a different relationship with anxiety than I did before. I have this elaborate toolbox that I use for my anxiety, or for when it tries to come. I mean, you have days, you go through life experiences. Yeah, it's going to creep up. You're human. Hello. But I have toolboxes. I have Reiki. I have transcendental meditation. I have sound bowls. I have tuning forks. I have Nat, get the fuck out of your head. Sometimes I have to have a real conversation with myself and be like, girl, get somewhere and sit down. Okay. But I do have a toolbox, and I recognize it a lot quicker than I used to. And I try to take the posture, Connie, of observing and not absorbing.
Ooh. Anxiety is the writing prompt for a writer's group that I'm in. And I was actually sitting today thinking, what is the opposite of anxiety?
Mm-hmm.
And what kept coming back to me is that, it's not the opposite. It's not calm or peace. The opposite is security and connection. So that's why everything that I kept hearing you say was just more and more connection,
Mm-hmm.
and more and more. It's not the absence of something abstract. It is true knowing that there are mitigating factors against the being separate.
Yeah.
So
Very cool writing prompt. Might have to steal it.
mm-hmm.
Do you guys have
I wanted to
questions?
tell you that what stuck with me was just your journey through from when you were even a little kid, from being so indoctrinated and so programmed and conditioned to only one way, and even that morphed into a different religion of sorts, into where you're at now. It is just a beautiful transformation, and coming home to yourself. And I love that.
Well, I'm I'm glad that you love it. It's been a journey. It doesn't seem like this journey. I know I said I started writing the book in 2019, but I think all of this really started. The wheels started moving with all of this in 2022. We're in 2026. It hasn't been that long. It feels like it's been longer. I feel like I done lived like 10 lifetimes.
Girl. Hmm. Hmm.
Anything else?
I wanted to just say thank you because, like, well, first off, it was the beginning for me hearing about being a child in a Jehovah's Witness family in Sierra Vista, Arizona. I would probably say that I had about 6 friends that I grew up with that were Jehovah's Witness. And I would ask them questions because I always was very curious. Why? How come? And most of the time, most of them, they didn't know. A lot of them were like, I don't know. And then I had one in particular who I'm still friends with till this day. And you just opened my eyes that having to do the reading, and there were so many things that she was always doing with the church because her mom was very deep in the church. Her mom and a really beautiful older woman used to come to our door and ring the doorbell and talk to my mom. And my mom is Southern Baptist. but but I would always ask her, she always still would talk to the women from the Jehovah's Witness church because she said one of them, the little woman, she said I loved her eyes. But mom really appreciated and really liked the way that the women were with each other. And so I would like to thank you because you opened my eyes up. And that's what first made me buy the book. I hopped right in and I was like, I'm getting this book. And so I would like to know, does the book come with a signature?
If you order it directly from me, it does.
Oh, goodness.
You didn't push the thing on, did you?
Oh, no.
It's okay. We'll work it out.
I'm canceling. I want my signed copy.
We will work it out, Tammy. We will work it out. I appreciate you saying that. It was interesting growing up. I always tell people I hopped from one pretty little wrapped gift with a nice little bow to another one that was another different wrapping, and I thought it was pretty too, and then I went, oh shit, this is the same shit. It's just in another pretty box. Or so I thought. So anyway, there's that.
Yeah. Should we chat about the deconstructing side of things, seeing as we're on that train already? I mean, it's essentially you deconstructed from Jehovah's Witness and went in a different line of Christianity and then deconstructed from that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you've deconstructed twice, really, in your lifetime. Two very diverse faith systems, though. So I'm curious in where the similarities were with the deconstructing. And thanks, Heather. It's good to see you. And where the big differences were in deconstructing from those two walks of life for you.
Very different. I mean, growing up Jehovah's Witness, as I mentioned in the book, we didn't do anything holiday wise, birthdays, strict adherence. You could go to Africa, South Africa, Johannesburg, Hanoi, Zimbabwe, and they're studying the same thing that we are studying here in the United States as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, because they have a whole schedule of a year planned out. You know how much to study, where to study, and if you get behind, you know where to go ahead and make it up. So there was a lot of structure in place. But there was, it was just this real strict adherence to things that I just, even as a child, it didn't resonate with me. And so I was, seeking spirituality, and I went looking. I looked in the Catholic Church, did a little bit with the Catholic Church. I didn't talk too much about that in the book. The Mormon Church, that looked too much like the Jehovah's Witnesses for me, so I left that pretty quick. And then when I got into the Christian church, I did have the conversion experience. People are like, do you really, is speaking in tongues a real thing? Mm-hmm. It is, because I can still speak in tongues. It never left me. Now some of the rafter hanging and the snake handling, y'all, I didn't know nothing, and nor did I want to be a part of any of that. Okay, I didn't. But there were so many facets of Christianity, and Jehovah's Witnesses was so rigid and black and white, you know what I mean? Other than another language. But in Christianity, I mean, you have Southern Baptists, and then you got your Free Will Baptists, and then you have your Independent Baptists, and then you have your Methodists, and then you have your American Methodists. It was all these different facets of Christianity, and the thing that I felt like was the difference in comparison there, okay, fine, I got the holidays, I got to celebrate my birthday, but there was still this constricted way that you had to live. It might have been a little looser on the grip than the Jehovah's Witnesses, but it still came with, well, you need to be at church on Sunday, and you need to let us lay hands on you and pray for this thing. Okay, I believe in prayer. I believe in prayer. My prayer life doesn't look anything like it used to. I can tell you that. But there was it's like a business. And so is the Jehovah's Witnesses too. It's a business. These two big organizations. And one of the things that I started to see that was kind of interesting, some of the church, there was the misogyny was in place in certain ones. And then there were some churches that there was a woman that was a pastor, and they're usually the ones that were liberated a little bit more. But it was still strict adherence. You need to limit how much secular music you listen to. You need to be careful what you're watching on TV. You don't need to be reading secular books. You need to read scripture, and only Christian books that are associated with scripture. So, same thing, a little different box. I hope I answered your question, Tam.
Yeah, you did. You did. Um, and I had a feeling that the like constricting aspect from both of them was going to be one of the main similarities. And that like heavy enforcement of doctrine, like you must be this way, like conforming is, I think, one of the big things. No matter what system one deconstructs through, I think that's one of the big leaving reasons is that constriction. You must abide, you must do this.
Yeah.
We've got about 10 minutes left, so should we chat a bit about the shaman sickness side of things?
We can.
Um, so I think there's a couple of us in the room that we definitely get the shaman sickness side of things. Um, I've come across you and a handful of other people that have gone through the experience of Lyme's disease, and I do have the strong belief that it's one of the ways through shaman sickness. It's one of nature's ways of getting in there, kicking your ass, and kicking you onto the path. Let's chat about that.
Yeah. I didn't learn about shaman sickness until you introduced me to it. Um, and I didn't realize that, that as you start to learn and train, and as we did with shamanism and being a shaman, one of the things that I remember very vividly recently in going over some of this is the soul retrieval aspect of shamanism. And I felt like Spirit was showing me the connection between the shaman sickness and being able to get access to soul retrieval. And soul retrieval, well, I know you know about it, Tam and Courtney and Connie. I don't know how much you know, but this is pretty much, getting permission to go into, for lack of a better term, the dark underworld of a person. And getting to the root of what's going on, why they are the way they are, why does this thing keep manifesting, why are they on this cyclical thing. We got to get to the root of it, and you have to have permission to go in and access this stuff. There's also working with the elements, the fire, the wind, the water, all that good jazz, and also the medicine wheel and the medicine bag. I don't want to overwhelm people because I could get real technical and they're like, girl, what the hell are you talking about? But it's pretty much like you are like the spiritual doctor for an individual. And usually the shamans have been through some sort of near death experience, and it initiates them, as you say, kick their ass into the path. Tam, you can chime in anytime you want.
I mean, you're going pretty good there on the explanation. So yeah, shaman sickness is kind of that umbrella term, and I mean, I've worked with so many different cultures over the years, and each one has some form of. Some people call it bad luck, life just falling apart around them. Some will call it a tower card moment if you're tarot oriented, and some will label it that shaman sickness. Where it's being dragged to death's doorstep in a lot of aspects, and you kind of make your way back on your own. You've got to find your way back, and it's through that journey back that really equips one to become a practitioner on the terms of like shaman or medicine person.
Mm-hmm.
I think the trouble with the Western world is that we're not growing up around elders. So we get things like Lyme's disease, we get things like unexplained illnesses. I've seen some of the most tragic experiences for some of the most top tier practitioners that are out there. But it's that inevitable fire that you got to walk through, because if you're going to work with people, they're walking through fire, and you can't walk them through things that you haven't walked through yourself. So that journey that you took, not just with Lyme's, but I think the whole process of how you grew up, you're navigating the different things of abuse through different relationships, starting with your mom. That's part of the first part of your book. You talk about that quite in depth.
And I did not read it, y'all. I did not read it. I want you to read that on your own.
yeah. And do read that portion.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, all of those are different instances of a form of shamanic sickness. It's really life just testing you to the fullest. In having those different experiences and kind of looking at it from becoming the practitioner, how well equipped do you feel those have made you to put you where you are now and working with others?
I feel like it's, would I want to go through it again? Not really. It wasn't fun, y'all. But it's made me who I am today. It has sharpened my intuitive nature. It has allowed me the ability to communicate with ancestors, to see things, to be able to do what I do with Reiki, to be able to look at somebody and see an aura, to be able to discern what's going on in their body. Sorry, y'all, I'm having a little moment. I think all of those things, even from childhood, and I'm thinking about this as you said it, Tam, in real time, they were preparation for now. And it's so interesting. I haven't even really got going good yet. I'm having the time of my life, y'all. Don't get me wrong. But I know there's more. There's more. And New York is going to be a great opportunity for that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, but it also has created, I will say this, an empathetic nature that was not present had I not walked through what I walked through. Especially, I couldn't move, y'all. I was a size 6. Now, hey, you want to lose weight? I don't recommend this diet. So, but losing 100 pounds and being unrecognizable by people, that's serious business, and then having to push through it, walk. I didn't go through that for nothing. I did it. I went through it for a purpose, and that purpose is to be who I am now and work with the people and be able to touch people's lives. But more importantly, showing them giving them the power that they already have to do it themselves. Taking their power and doing it themselves. Y'all have heard me say this about the divinity within, and it is not limited to a building with beautiful statues and all of this stuff in it. It's right here. And there's a power that we all carry that everybody has the right to tap into and learn about, and then let's go replicate that. Yeah.
Thanks, Nat. Any closing questions or thoughts? Got a couple minutes left if anyone has anything else.
This was amazing. I'm so excited to read the book.
Thank you for coming, and thank you, Tammy. And see, yeah, too many Tams.
Tam.
You call her Tam now.
At least you didn't show up wearing the same top this time.
I noticed that today. Y'all didn't.
Because normally we're on that vibe, like randomly look over, like.
It's a Sagittarian thing, man. It's a Sagittarian thing.
It is. It really
But see,
is.
we're kind of matching because red and black always goes together.
Right. And it's a sleeve top, you know.
Y'all are hysterical.
See?
I will say thank you all for coming. Connie, thank you for coming. I know I haven't seen you, and we are under 4 weeks, well under 4 weeks until we depart. Courtney, thank you for coming.
Call later. Gotta see you before I go.
Yeah. It's a little cray. But I want to thank y'all so much for coming. Courtney, of course, always have a blast with you. We had such a good time recording recently. And Tam, of course, Tam has been quite an instrument from the divine. Quite an instrument, and she has a tremendous gift of seeing clearly other people, other practitioners, other people's gifts. She does that well. And of course, Tamala, I heard you on a podcast like a year and some change ago, and here I am talking to you on the screen. I was listening to a podcast and heard you. So
I'm like, what did I say?
You said a lot.
What did I say? Because whenever I call on a Critical Mass podcast,
this is before Critical Mass.
Got a Z.
Wow, Z. Because you were both on with Z, and I heard both of you.
And Z connected me with Tam. She said, there's this woman, you're going to love her, Tamla. She said, I just feel like you guys are going to vibe. First time I met Tam, I was like, that's my Tam. That's my Tam.
I love it. Connie.
Hey,
oh, go ahead, honey.
Can you share with us how we can directly order from you so we can have it signed?
So if you go back to my website, oasisjourney.com, and there, if you go to the little hamburger thing, I call it in the corner.
Yeah.
And it will have what happens in the Cocoon. Hold on a second. Let me go back because I could be lying to you because my wife did updates today on my website. So if you click on the hamburger and what happened you click on the hamburger. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, no, it's too bright. Okay, so when you go on the website, there's the 3 lines in the upper corner. If you click on that, it'll say what happens in the cocoon. And there's an arrow. If you just click on that, it'll bring you to this page. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this another way. It'll bring you to this page, and you can order from here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
You can order from here. Yeah, and then that way you will get a signed copy from me.
Look at you,
Thank you, Tam. I thought, why didn't I just put it in the chat?
I got you.
Why didn't I just put it in the chat?
I'm not just here to look pretty and ask you questions. I can do it.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I ordered the right book. I ordered it for the right side. I saw the page. Oh, yes, I got it.
Yes. But I don't have anything else, Tam. I just really appreciate you guys coming and sitting with me and hearing some of my story.
It was our pleasure. I think I can speak for all of us.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Courtney close this one. No, I think we'll. Nat, you want to do your closing that you have mastered so beautifully.
Yes. So do not forget when you leave this space, your life has purpose. You are on this planet for a reason. People need to know that you are here, and people need to hear from you. Go have some fun.
Mm.
Yay. Thanks, guys.
Mm.
All right. Hold on. I'm going to stop the recording.